Yeah, it looks like we're just missing David so far.
That's correct. Okay, all set.
Well, like I said, good evening, everyone. Julian here again. I would like to call to order our second meeting as the ad hoc committee for the renaming of James Madison Memorial High School. Just like to start it off, noting everyone in attendance, missing David Aguayo currently. Hopefully he can jump on later. But before we get into this, the meat of things, I know it's been a while. Just want to check in with everyone. Feel free to pass if you want to, but just want to go through and kind of call people and greet the group and say how you feeling, anything new, anything you want to share, just kind of lighten up the mood. It's been a long day for all of us, I'm sure, so I'll start. The day's been going well. Super hot today. I don't know if anyone was outside, but humid. Didn't want to be out there too long, had an outdoor event, but other than that, I'm doing well. We got some new faces as well, so I think this would be good to kind of welcome them to the committee. So with that being said, I'll just go through my list based on how it shows on the screen. So Mark, if you want to greet the group.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Clear. New to the group, so please be kind. And but looking forward to diving in. Just 3 seconds on background. I was Madison City Council member for about 11 years and also have 2 daughters that are Memorial graduates.
Great to have you, Mark. Next, we'll go to Amber Jansen.
Good evening. And yeah, Mark, welcome. We're glad to have you. I am one of the teachers at Memorial High School. So I'm well. Julie and I agree. It's warm out there. We had softball outside from 10 to noon and we quit at 11:30. That was enough. So I'm not complaining about the weather because winter will be here soon enough, but it is a warm one today.
Understood. Greetings again, Amber. Next, we'll go to Frank Lennox.
Yeah, this is Frank. I had to find my unmute button there. I had 4 sons that went to Memorial, and actually our youngest is currently just took a position there at the school. And looking forward to working with folks here to come up with a solution.
Greetings again to you, Frank. Next, we have, I hope I don't butcher this. I know I had troubles the first time. Is it Eliana or Elena?
Yeah, Eliana. Thank you. I'm Eliana. I am a current incoming senior at Memorial, and I have a younger brother who will be an incoming freshman next year. And I'm very excited to get to discussing all of these names with everyone today.
Happy to have you back, Eliana. Next, we have Rosemary.
I noticed you didn't say my last name, Julian. I'm just teasing. Yeah, Rosemary Barrientos Irigoyen, and I am a staff member at Memorial High School for 25 years. I'm a school social worker, and I'm also excited to begin the discussion. Good to see everybody.
Great to see you again, Rosemary. And it's been a long day. I didn't want to make it tougher than it's already been for me, so I'll get it before this is over. Next, we have Mr. Lynn Mormino.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you, Julian, and the group. We've been virtual as counselors all week, reviewing those transcripts, resolving schedule conflicts, getting ready to plan with seniors, Eliana. And I was really, my best part of my day was actually when my dog took me for a walk out in that heat today.
And next we have Mr. Ron Jordan.
You got it, Julian. Can everyone hear me? Yep. In Eau Claire after spending the day in Cornell, Wisconsin, and tomorrow in Gale, Wisconsin, traveling for work, and it's nice up here in the Northwoods.
Great to have you. Safe travels to you as you continue your week. Next, we'll go to Mr. Sean Matson.
Hey everyone, nice to see you again. Welcome, Mark. I'm Sean. I'm a teacher at La Follette and ready to get to work.
Last but certainly not least, at the committee members present, we have Miss Cynthia Kump.
Hi, Julian. Hi, everyone. I am also on the road right now, so I apologize for any background sound. Mark, welcome. I know Mark and think the world of him, so I'm excited he's going to be a part of this conversation. I'm a Memorial alum. My father was a longtime guidance counselor at Memorial, and after retirement, he came out of retirement to work at Shabazz when there was a shortage of counselors and support for students. My mother also was very involved with education and teaching at Memorial High School, and later moved on to the Wisconsin Forensics Association. After being involved with forensics and theater at Memorial, I also am the proud mother of a 12-year-old Madison Public School kid. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
And just like I told Mr. Jordan, I would like to, wish you safe travels as you're traveling to your destination. It's good to have you back, and I think it'll be a good discussion too. I've been anxious to kind of get back together as a group again, so looking forward to the dialogue today. With that being said, show of hands or just kind of putting a thumb up. Was everyone able to access board docs and have what they need in front of them so they can? Okay, sounds good. And we got everyone's proposals and rubrics and rankings. So thank you guys for doing that in a timely fashion. I know they were kind of confusing at first and things like that and getting people the right Word docs or whatever. So we have those all today, and this would be a good conversation. Again, I don't want to hold you guys very long. I know it's been a long day for most of us, but we'll make sure we get the things on the agenda covered. And if we need to come back sooner than we did this first time around, we'll discuss that at the end. Before we continue, excuse me, Barbara, Marvin, you guys want to address the group? Just kind of say hi again.
Most def, Julian, thank you so much for allowing this opportunity. I just want to say to everyone, first of all, you guys look outstanding, look marvelous, and everybody's complaining about the heat. And guess what? I'm enjoying this hot weather. Being from Atlanta, this is what I'm accustomed to during this time of year. So I'm excited about it and can't wait until the weekend to get out there on the golf course and hit some golf balls in it. But I'm just, I'm in a good space. I'm excited. As you know, we're preparing for the opening of school and just trying to come back and engage in teaching and learning. So with that said, I just want to say thank each and every one of you for your contributions to this work. Thank you, Julian, for leading this. It means a lot to us, and it says a lot about who you are, and taking ownership of this in this matter right here. And I'm looking forward to just listening in, and that is my role, just to kind of listen in, and I report back to the board, just kind of give them updates in regards to how we're progressing, okay? So thank you, and I'll be in the background, but I'll be totally focused. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pryor. I agree with everything he just said. I really, just one reminder to people to please keep your video on while you're on YouTube so that people can see that you're in the meeting if you are a member of the committee. Just a note, I wanted to thank all of you for all the tremendous work that you've done already to get ready for this meeting tonight. We are all set to go and ready for the conversation. So handing it back to you, Julian. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pryor. Thank you, Barb, for the kind words. And also, just to clarify, that's for the people who can. Cynthia, don't worry about turning your camera on. Just focus on driving and being attentive. We want you to be as safe as possible. With that being said, Barb, how do you want to do? Are you going to share your screen and we go through like last time and we just kind of talk through these things?
I can do that. Yep. I was just going to go right down the line in board docs.
Sounds
so
good.
I'll pull that up. Is everybody able to see my board doc screen? No?
Everyone okay? Thumbs up? Okay, it looks like everyone.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm gonna go back to it then.
So you can go to the guideline for the submitting written statements, but we don't have to spend very much time on that just because there were no written statements submitted since we last spoke. So I guess the last.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that this is completely different than the input that we are receiving on the website about this particular topic.
Yeah.
This process right here is what we use for the Board of Education every week when we do board meetings with them. It's a different portal. It allows people to submit written statements and or register to speak. And that's what this is right here. It's completely different. So it was opened up on Monday and closed today at 3 p.m. and we did not have any written statements submitted this way. Thank you.
Yes. And to piggyback off that, there will be some things that we read, some public comments that we did receive and things like that. But like Barb said, they're two separate things. So with that being said, we can go to the guidelines of registering to speak. And these general public appearances, Barb, do you have a waiting room already? I read the instructions. Is there people in the waiting room that would like to speak?
There are none, sir. We did not have any registrants, so
Okay.
We're ready to go.
Okay. Just for future reference for the people watching on YouTube, make sure you go to the website, madison.k12wisconsin.us, so that you can register for this. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. There won't be a dialogue. It's not a question and answer, but you can have time to speak on whatever you want regarding this matter at our next meeting. And so, yeah, please use that feature so that we can get public appearances and make sure that we're hearing everyone who wants to speak on this matter speak and make sure that they're heard. So with that being said, we'll go to the approval of minutes for our last meeting. Kind of just an overview of the structure of everything, the discussion, and when we adjourned. Make sure everyone is okay in approval of that. It's not really anything that we need to spend a lot of time on, but that is there, and I'm hoping that you guys looked at that kind of before the meeting, just so you can kind of approve what was going on and what we discussed at the last meeting. Moving along here.
We'll have to take a motion to approve those, Julian. If people did not have enough time to read these, I am perfectly willing to move those to the next meeting so that you can take action on them if you're more comfortable. Otherwise, the motion is here.
Or otherwise, we are moving pretty quickly rather, and because we didn't have any public appearances, we can just spend time to read through it. Did everyone have time to look through the minutes?
I did not.
You did not?
I did not, no.
Okay, can we click on that bar, please?
Sure.
Now, let's just spend some time. So it's talking about, the meeting was called by Chairperson Julian Walters at 5:08. We continue to kind of read these things through. You can slide down. We reviewed the rubric that would be used for evaluating each of the proposals. No editing was done to the proposals, nor were they put in any order. The 26 names were provided, as well as the full proposals. No review of the proposals were done at this meeting, rather than the process was explained. Information, discussion, public comments submitted to date were provided. Chair Walters noted that these comments would not be evaluated, but will provide input as the members consider that the proposals and the impact of the Memorial Committee and the district as a whole. Further information will be provided for the next meeting that analyzes the data in form of an infographic. Updated input will be provided at each meeting until the committee finishes its work. No new proposals will be added at this point. Clarify that the committee will make recommendations to the board from the proposals submitted during the time frame specified by policy. And Gail Martinson explained the research gathered on the 26 names that provided a mix of perspectives. Can you scroll up just a little bit, Barb?
Yes.
She offered to do further research as the committee moves ahead. She did try to explore whether this was controversy with an individual. She explained how to maneuver through the files. A question was asked about the day job research. This name was not submitted as a formal proposal. There was also a question about whether any of the proposals had been removed prior to being provided to the committee, and it was confirmed that they had not. One committee member indicated that there was a missing proposal. She was asked to provide that information to staff online. We can move to the body of the discussion. Now, rather than read this all, I'll kind of just leave this up for, let's say, 2 minutes. Right now, it's 5:19. At 5:21, 5:22, we'll move forward. But everyone just read at your own leisure, and we'll just mute while during this time frame.
Can I move to approve these minutes?
Motion
Was
to,
that Ron?
Yes, it was. I move to approve these minutes.
I
Thank
would
you.
second it. Sean.
Second,
is this, okay,
Was
that
that Mr. Lennox?
yes.
Thank you. Okay, just as a matter of routine, Julian, if we have a mover and a seconder, so just ask if everyone approves them and take a vote. So
if everyone approves these minutes, motion to approve by Ron and seconded by Frank, say aye, and if anyone opposes, raise your hand at this time.
Aye.
Aye.
Seems like we have,
Aye.
we unanimously approve to move these minutes so we can continue on with the agenda.
thank you much.
These are, we kind of, so this portion is the stuff that we kind of went over the first time when we gathered. It's just the renaming, the statement, and the policy. Barb, should we re-go over this or should we just jump into the discussion?
No, there's no need to redo this unless someone has a question.
Does anyone have any questions with this, the statement from Maya and the policy, the renaming timeline, or the committee, the charge of the committee? Seems like everyone is okay.
Okay,
We can move on to the comments and the next part of the agenda.
review the comments that are here are from July 2nd until August 17, yesterday. So it's a PDF file. It's about 11 pages long. And then we also just received the renaming infographic that we promised from the last meeting. So I can pull up both of these documents, and Julian, you can direct me as you want to.
Well, let's go through the comments first and just kind of scroll through them slowly, but just so people can kind of look at them, engage them, and then we'll talk about the infographic. So we can just people can just kind of scan and look through them. I'm sure people had time to visit them before, but just so they can get a view of kind of some of the tone that people are submitting to this juncture, this renaming process. And we can keep scrolling. We can keep scrolling. So as you guys can see, some of these are more detailed and more focused, and some of these are actually, for respect of better words, just kind of silly, but people are commenting and people are paying attention. And the point of this is kind of to show the public that we are being conscious of these comments and reviewing them, not only on our own time, but during our meetings, and looking over them and just being aware of public opinion while we kind of deliberate about this renaming process.
Barb, to clarify, are these comments posted on the board website or on the district website?
So are these comments posts? So they're all, yeah, these are all on the district website. Yes. Yes. I guess I look at them as one and the same, but no.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, and these are in addition to the over 750 that we had at the first meeting, which is in board docs also. So this is just, you know, from then till now.
Let's scroll a little bit more. We're almost through the last page. Okay, one more page. So again, just another thing to reference as we're considering these name changes. These are here in board docs for you guys to reference as you may. But with, you know, moving on, we'll go to the infographic. So this is pretty straightforward as well. It's very good graphic. I mean, you can see more than half of people are in favor of a name change. About 22% are not in favor. And about 21% just want to simplify it to Madison Memorial or simply Madison Memorial High School. These are a lot of the names that, these are all the names that were proposed. Bigger ones are the ones who had more than one proposal. But again, we'll get into that later on in this meeting where we kind of go through our rubric rankings and kind of talk through how we want to continue on in terms of name submittal to the board and, you know, how many we want to.
Yes.
Just ask a quick clarifying question, Mr. Chair. This graphic was produced by Barb or by district staff. This wasn't submitted to us, correct?
District
Correct.
staff, correct.
Thank you.
Yes, and it is just about the comments. It is not about the proposals themselves, but about the comments. Yeah, and the names definitely are the ones that were proposed. Thank you.
Right, I just
Yeah.
wasn't clear on who prepared it. Thank you.
Yes, our staff. So yeah, just here for your reference, it was just a quick way to visually see out of all the comments that we received already, which is pretty voluminous. So just a graphic, yes. Okay.
Moving along, we're going to go into the discussion piece. I think that we should kind of go We kind of talked about this stuff at the first one, but I think we should jump into Matthew Bronigan's statement. He wasn't able to attend, but he sent this to us. And I'm just gonna read it out loud. And we'll kind of discuss this as we discuss the other names. So he says, "Hey Barb, here are my rankings. Not finished, but I'll see what I can do." Oh, and just before, he gave us, permission to read this out and share with the public. He said he would have had these comments anyway, so we got permission to do so. "Here are my rankings. Not finished, but I'll see what I can do before the evening. I don't believe I'll be attending tonight, but I wanted to add a few thoughts, as I mentioned, if you don't mind sharing with people. On Bruce Dahman, I also think my underlying points hold over for Milton as well. We'll clarify at the end. There's a lot of public support for Bruce, and I'm not saying these individuals aren't justified. They had their specific experience with him, but I want to say this was far from universal. I went to school when Dahman was a grade level principal, not mine, but A. Additionally, during my time with the People Program, he was a principal of Memorial High School. From my experience to some of my peers and on to students I kept in contact with through their high school experience, the positive experience around Bruce was far from universal. Now, I understand you can't pick someone everyone would like, but first let me elaborate on why I would suggest not naming it after Bruce, let alone anyone specifically associated with school leadership. And it is the idea that no experience is universal. Bruce wanted me expelled for drug possession in high school. This was before zero tolerance. On another occasion, he pushed for me to be charged with assault for he said conflict with another student. And he said that I was who I was and didn't deserve a second chance when the possibility of pursuing expulsion as a punishment. This experience of not seeing the full person wasn't something I only experienced. I know some of my peers who didn't have the support network I did had similar experience. I know from talking with some students, he didn't support them in their troubles and wrote them off as he did before. And I noticed a pattern for students, especially students of color. For those who participated in extracurricular but had struggles, he supported and saw their struggles as things to overcome. For students who didn't and were struggling, he saw their struggles as who they were. For experience is just that, but I know I am not alone in that, and my experience alone doesn't mean he isn't worthy of having a school named after him. This isn't about a grudge or being petty. I let go of any anger I was holding onto towards him quite a long time ago. But this is about an idea that I think holds for Milton too, that while there's an attachment to the school and many students have had positive experiences, there are also ways we can do better. I think the name should be someone, while human, also upheld the best of our ideals, someone whose name they can learn from the history of their ideas and action. We are limited to only those who have positive experiences and forgetting those who didn't. We name it after someone in school leadership. When you look at the names of Bayard Rustin, Frederick Douglass, Maria Monreal Cameron, Harriet Tubman, etc., and their roles in history, and standing up in the face of the worst humanity, shining through for the best. You see aspirational names. You see someone the school can lean into the history of in a way that enriches students, not just a name that some people liked and some people didn't. This blends into the idea of memorial. Really, does it not? To keep the name memorial, I think is a good idea, but to keep that part of the name, we should be memorializing the best of humanity in the face of the worst, of the history of that, and for students to have the opportunity to understand the importance of that. While a local or school connection would be nice, I'm not sure the names connected to the school dig deep enough. And yes, it's just a name, but the chance for teachers, administrators, and students to embody something great for those told they couldn't rise. And while again, we're all imperfect, I'd rather someone we know met those ideas head on than this committee quietly tell those whose names and voices we haven't heard about Milton or Bruce, we still don't see you. This is the danger of naming it after someone from school leadership. Again, not to say they are bad people, but legacy is complicated, and there are bound to be many students that they both failed. Even though future students won't know, I just think there are better options that meet the criteria and whose personal and professional failures didn't fail students of the school. That was submitted by Matthew Bronigan, and that will move us on that we spoke about that was collected by Gail. So you can look over those when you want, and then it's the rubric and the flow chart and things we have previously discussed. So You can click on those if you need to, but right now we're kind of going to look at the composite rankings of, the proposals that each one of us did. So as you can see, and at this point, we can all kind of begin to discuss. You can unmute and kind of just let me know when you want to speak, or raise your hand or do whatever emoji, because now it's open for dialogue. And this is more discussion piece of this meeting. And I kind of want to kick things off by asking, one, what do you guys think should be next steps? We have up to four names that we can propose to the board, or we can propose one and they can decide on that. I'm open to, open up the floor to suggestions and opinions on how we should go about this and which direction we should, ultimately go in terms of submission to the board.
Julian, this is Cynthia. I just have a couple. I wanted to ask a clarifying question. So Matt Bronigan was part of the ad hoc committee, correct? Or is?
Correct.
Okay, but he clarified in his statement that he had not completed the rubric that we were all asked to complete, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then
partially.
he proceeded. Okay, but I fair enough, but didn't complete it as the rest of the committee did, but then opted to make the statement that he made just now in writing with his opinion, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to say this because I think it is important to say I neither agree nor disagree with what he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an opinion on that. However, I'm not sure that I do question the appropriateness of expressing such a strong opinion one way or another when we were handed the task to simply evaluate the names based on the rubric and open it up for discussion. Because I have some concerns about that. Of course, everyone's coming to the table with opinions. However, if we were to be evaluating these objectively and all of us did so, I question the appropriateness of that statement being submitted in red, and just thank you for hearing me on this.
Yeah, and I received that. I think that he it's unclear about his standing with the committee, and I believe that he will proceed with us. That's my kind of my gauge of the situation, and he asked that that be read. He did submit some proposals. I guess it was some other personal things that came up. And so we just wanted to make sure that he had that time to kind of express what that's well received. I received that, and that's something that Barbara and I would talk about. It does kind of show, while it not being a proposal, I could see the direct conflict of interest that it has with some of the names that have been proposed. So thank you for sharing that with us, Cynthia. Mark, and then Amber can go.
Thanks. I just have a clarifying question, and I'm sort of interested in hearing from the rest of the committee, but I noticed that one of the ways I approached this was to names that were identical, I ranked all as the same, but then on the average, they didn't come out the same. So obviously some people took a different approach than I did. And so I'm interested in hearing the approach that that others did and why they might have ranked the same name differently with different sets of proposals.
So for me, I did each one. There was 5 questions, and I did each point based on the comments and how it reflected into the question and the how thorough it was. Some of them didn't have it, but some of the proposal was just a name and everything else was left blank. So I kind of did it based on comments and things like that, and I gave a point for each box that they filled in based on how thoroughly and detailed it was in reference to whatever that name was.
That's how I did it too. I did it the same way you did it, Julie.
Yep, same with me.
Yep, same with me as well.
Okay, I guess I'm the outlier here. I tried to really rank it based on the value of the suggestion itself, not necessarily based on the quality of the nomination. And so I didn't want those two things to really influence each other. I just thought about, how does this particular nomination meet the criteria, regardless of whether the person proposing it was very thorough or not very thorough at all.
And I'll take the bite on that because you weren't here for the first meeting. We kind of talked about that, added in. That's why so many of us did it the same, and you kind of did it your own way. And so I probably should have been more thorough when I brought you on and brought you up to speed. So I'll take the bite on that. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, Mark, I just wanted to say that I started looking at it that way. And then when I went back and looked and then remembered what was talked about in the meeting, because I agreed with what you were saying, but then it was, it had to fit into those parameters. And so, regardless if it was, Bruce Dom and all of them, there were different things that were not fit following. The proposals did not fit into the rubric that we were given with what was written. And so then I had to go back and start over again. So, but I get you.
Okay, thank you. I'll state for the record that I stand by my methodology and might have stuck with it even if I had been in the previous discussion, because I think the quality of an individual nomination for consideration shouldn't necessarily be influenced by the amount of effort or quality of that the person who nominated took the time to do.
Receive. Amber, it looks like you had raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. And Mark, I think thankfully, at least in my experience with the rankings, I felt like the two overlapped, that the most quality recommendations also happened to have the most quality name offerings, but that was my feeling on it. One thing I'm wondering if we could do in order to recognize that we have a lot to go through here is to ask the committee how comfortable people might feel with us eliminating options below a certain number, especially if we have multiples of the same name. I think if we can pick, for example, our highest rated nomination for Bruce or for Madison Memorial High School, I think then we could narrow ourselves down to a much smaller list and have a more robust discussion rather than getting into the weeds about any of these particular nominations versus another one for the same name.
I think that's a great idea. I also want to backtrack quick because I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We don't have to do this. I want to be very clear. We don't have to do this all today. What we can do, and like I said, this is open for discussion with the committee. We can pick 6 or 7 names or 8 names or however many we decide and tier the elimination process. We don't have to have the 4 today or the 3 today or the 2 or the 1 that we want to submit to the board today. We can kind of tier this thing off and meet again at a later time. If the group best fits, that's the way to go, and analyze them as a smaller pool, kind of like what you're saying, Amber.
Well, this is Cynthia. I agree. I wanted to add, and I was actually thinking of this as we were reading these with all of the repetition, and there was significant repetition in some cases. The instructions for submitting for consideration were pretty clear, and the questions were asked. I would actually propose that we eliminate proposed names which did not answer the questions applicable. Obviously, someone who is proposing the name of a person cannot answer questions about how it would be a geographical place of significance. So obviously that's not relevant. But if there are proposals in there where they truly did not take the time to answer the questions for consideration, I would ask my fellow committee members and you, Julian, as chair, to consider eliminating those if they weren't taking the time to complete and answer the questions for consideration. I guess to me that somewhat reflects, how seriously we should take the submission. That's just my opinion.
With that being said, thank you for that, Cynthia. With that being said, I want to kind of open the floor, and I definitely wanted to kind of hear from Mark if he's still here. Oh, I see it. Mark, because he's the one who kind of brought up the point of judging the person based on that name and not that submission. So let's open it up for dialogue here, and after that, Ron has his hands up, and just kind of open up the floor about. Actually, Ron, you go ahead, and then Mark, if you have something to add on to it, I don't want to, go ahead, Ron, but let's talk about what Cynthia just said, what thoughts are on that.
Yeah, now I got to figure out how to. Okay, there we go. On what Cynthia said, I kind of agree with it. We all know which of those proposals are a waste of our time. And I just think that they should automatically be dumped. There's no reason for us to discuss woke or Pepe or any of the fake ones that are on there. And I even having them, I know that we had to have them go through, but at this point, it's time for all of us to agree to just eliminate the ones that have no reason being on this list, because it's a waste of our time.
Before we continue, I just want to make sure everyone knows how to use, actually I can see if you just want to raise your hand or use the raise hand feature like Ron did. If you want to speak, go ahead, just so we don't have anybody overlapping. Rosemary, was that a hand? Oh, okay, I was a thumb. Does anyone
I
have?
think you wanted me to, you asked me to weigh in on something, but now I've already forgotten what.
Yeah, so Cynthia said that we should, based on the thoroughness of the proposal, with that being said, with them completing each parameter and filling it out, she said we should continue with those proposals. And I wanted to make sure you had the floor to kind of speak on that, because I know you had just said previously that you did your rubric based on the quality of the name and not the actual proposal. So I wanted, and she had, kind of raised that we move in that direction of eliminating people who didn't fill out the proposals thoroughly. And so I wanted to give you the floor to kind of speak what you feel about that. And then after that, Eliana can go, and then Frank.
I think I kind of made my point a couple of minutes ago. So, and I don't want to retread territory that the committee discussed in its first meeting. If you guys already decided on this, I don't need to resurrect that.
Okay, Eliana.
So my personal opinion about moving forward with eliminating names is that I would be kind of more inclined to kind of do what Miss Jansen suggested, which is to take the highest ranked one of each of the duplicates and take those, and those will be the ones that we discuss. I think that it's perfectly fine to go ahead and eliminate the names with absolutely no content in the proposal, the ones that were just a name. But I do think that before we just go ahead and throw away all of the non-paragraph or non-super detailed responses, if they're not duplicates, we should probably do some discussing there. But personally, I don't see any issue with just taking the highest ranking of all the duplicates and getting rid of the ones that were just names.
So just to add some comment into the discussion, I would agree. I'm just remembering back that anything that I felt was not a complete proposal or did not have an explanation that was actually taking it seriously was below a 3 for me. So anything that got a 1 or 2 for me, I wasn't really valuing that proposal. Anything 3 and up, there was something there, it was complete, and then I was really able to look at the content and get into it. So just that was my numerical frame of reference that for the good of the cause here.
And Mr. Frank is have your hand up.
Eliana took the words out of my mouth, so I was going to say the same thing. I agree with her, Amber, and actually the stuff that Len added at the end there to, maybe cut it off at 3 or something of that nature.
So it seems like we're kind of trending in the right direction. And now I kind of want to ask, how many names do you guys want to look at now? Like, how many do you guys want to get to 4 right now? Do you guys want to cut the list to talk to me about that? Which direction do you guys want to go when it comes to that?
I don't think we should submit 4 names. I think as a committee, we should be able to land on 2 or even 1.
Go ahead, Sean.
What
Sean
you're
has his
asking-
hand
sorry,
up.
go ahead. Sorry.
So in regards to your question, I think despite the fact that we may not arrive at, we may arrive at a number that is 4, 3, 2, or 1. I think that of the proposals that we do think are pertinent and that we do think meet the qualifications, it's my personal belief that we owe them at least a little bit of a discussion amongst this group, and then we can make our decisions from there. They don't have to necessarily be, all day long conversations. But if we get down to, frankly, just looking at the list, once you combine duplicates, there really aren't a lot of different proposals. So I think we'll be able to narrow it down a little bit more. And I don't have a personal opinion about how we narrow it down, but I do think that when we get to a list of finalists that are, quality proposals, I think that we should at least discuss them before moving to the next phase.
So let's start talking about some of these names then. Actually, before we, Sean, I mean, Mark, I cut you off because Sean had his hand up. You still want to add your comment? I'm sorry about that.
I took my hand down because I was wondering, based on Cynthia's comment, whether we're talking about just narrowing it down to a set of finalists that we discussed, or the number that we're submitting to the board. But I think Sean kind of clarified that for me, that we're just talking at this point about how many finalists we want to consider. And I would say, I don't really care what the number is, but I'd be interested in seeing, once we eliminate the duplicates and then sort them by average rank, it might be pretty clear how many are worth considering. And that might be 4, it might be 8. But I'd rather make the decision based on that data rather than picking a number that we want to try to get to.
Yeah, this is Cynthia. I agree with you. I was just saying, I was answering the question of how many I would hope we could land on as a committee to present to the school board for consideration, not how many we should consider. I think we should thoroughly consider every name we land on in terms of how we decide to combine, like proposals, or however we're going to do it.
So I think that we should start looking at, maybe, Barb, can you share your screen again so we can look at that ranking and we can start talking about these names and removing duplicates? Eliana, I see you have your hand up. The floor is yours.
Yeah, that was just kind of my comment, is that if before we start discussing, if we could see like a list of just the single names, that would be good.
Barb, is that something you need a little more time to do? To put the names together with the aggregated numbers? Or is that something that can happen relatively quickly? I don't know how you have this set up.
Yes, if you, I would like to probably recess the committee for just a little bit while we do that. So it's just a matter of, yeah, give me a little bit of time to resort the file and see if I can get it out there like that.
Tell us what a little bit of time is.
Pardon
You're
me?
talking about 5
How much
minutes
time
or
do you need, Barbara?
15 or 3 days?
I'm gonna do it as fast as I possibly can. If I can get it done in 10 minutes, Mark, that's what I'm gonna do. If I can't, I'll let you know that.
'Cause
So
for public purposes, we should set a time for reconvening.
you can.
So I'll move for a 15-minute recess.
Okay, thank you.
Barb's not kicking me under the table, so.
I second that.
Second that. The motion approved.
Yeah, and Barb, thank you, Barb, for your willingness to do that so quickly.
Okay, I'll be right back.
That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will reconvene at 15 then.
So yeah, just mute your stuff and you can go off camera and we'll be back around 5:10 or so.
6:10.
6:10.
6:10 for Okay. The time is now 6:10. If you can hear me, please return to your computers, desktops, anything, and turn your cameras back on as we reconvene. So this is the new list of the names by each other, so we can kind of eliminate the duplicates. Thank you so much, Barb, for creating this. If you just kind of want to scroll down, we can see obviously that Bruce Diamond Memorial High School was a name that was resubmitted over, so that's one we should probably talk about. You know, Darlene Hancock, Harriet Tubman got a couple. Madison Memorial, just leaving it as is, got a couple. So of these names, I'm curious, and open to committee members, any of the ones that didn't get resubmitted multiple times that had a good proposal, a thorough, complete proposal with a high score. I'm just curious, is there a name that we should spend some time discussing outside of the duplicates? It's looking like everyone's kind of, okay, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this needs to be discussed now, but just something that I'm seeing overall is I think part of where our discussion is going to end up going is there a person that we're going to name the school after? And then are we going to include Memorial in it? Yes or no? So some of those that are like Bruce Diamond versus Bruce Diamond Memorial, I think can potentially be combined together. And that question of should Memorial be in the name of the school, I think is a question that will come up regardless, I think, of what name, if any, is chosen.
And I think at the first meeting, we kind of came to the consensus that regardless of what name we come up with, we want to leave it with the Memorial at the end, just because for branding purposes and things of, you know, it's be already recognizable and referencing. So I think that that's a great point that you bring up, and we should revisit that. I think that it makes sense to keep Memorial there regardless to what the beginning name is that's changed to, but committee members, we can kind of talk about that too, as do we go just verbatim to the proposed names, or can we combine things? Those are all things that we can discuss when it comes to our ultimate submission to the board. So I'll go to Mark, and then I'll go to Frank, and then Amber.
Well, this wasn't what I was going to say, but I'll answer your question, which is I agree that Memorial should be part of it, unless there were any proposals that weren't a person. And I would say that in that category, actually, just naming it Memorial High School kind of makes no sense, because memorial to what or whom? Other than that, I think, yes, keeping Memorial, if there's a name preceding it, makes sense.
Frank?
Yeah, I would agree to what Mark said. And I think Amber brought up a good point last meeting, that it does take into consideration the impact to taxpayers, you know, to have to do make a lot of purchases to replace that. So I would agree.
Amber?
I don't know if I'm allowed to do this or not, but I would just make a motion that we as a committee decide that Memorial will be part of the high school name, and that can be decided, and then we can move on with whatever's going to go in front of it. So am I able to make that motion or not?
Barb, is she able to make that motion? Because if she is, I want to second it.
Yes, yes, yes. You can recognize a motion as the chair anytime you want to, Julian. You can make that decision.
So
But the chair shouldn't be seconding a motion, so I will.
Yeah.
any objections? There's no objections, so motion approved to just keep Memorial as the name, regardless to, you know, as part of the name that we choose to submit.
That was unanimous. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I had my hand raised.
Go ahead, Sean.
I just wanted to offer that, like, I didn't know that we were voting yet. I just wanted to offer that, you know, contingent on like what Mark had said about, you know, if just choosing to name it Memorial or what name we choose. I'm not sure that I'm personally comfortable making that decision right now, specifically because some of the recommendations recommend just simply dropping the name James from the school. And so that's, I think, a question that's on the table. And my opinion about that might be different than my opinion about another name choice. And so while I definitely see the common sense behind the idea, I'm not sure if I'm personally quite ready to move on that, given that we haven't narrowed it down quite yet. And I, you know, just, we haven't really discussed at all why we're changing the name and how that grounds these discussions. And I think when we're talking about memorializing a person, I think it's important that we make sure that we're doing that, you know, affirmatively and not just because we decided to keep the memorial name. It doesn't feel within the spirit of the idea. So that's just how I feel.
Great point. Well received. And we'll kind of revisit that. Let's get these some of the other committee members who have their hands up, and we can kind of circle back to that. Cynthia?
Hey, I just wanted, I'm on video now, as you can obviously see, but also, Barb, if you could help change my name, proof positive. I have a technically savvy child in my home, because that is my daughter's name, not mine, on my Zoom profile.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. And I agree with what Sean just said. If we make a motion to include Memorial in the name, then we're essentially all voting to submit a name, and that's not what we're here for. Thank you.
So then it seems like we should kind of be going towards talking about the submissions, because it just makes sense to kind of start moving towards, if you pull the list back, if you could pull the list back up, Barb, just so we can kind of get some sense of direction and look at this and talk through it a little bit. Mark, I see you have your hand up.
I'm just wondering if Cynthia was implying that she would like to move reconsideration of our previous action, because we did vote as the chair accepted that vote, and I want to. I'm Mr. Procedure Boy, so I'm.
No, Mark, that's a good point. I actually would, yes, move for reconsideration on this, just considering, I do agree with Sean, and I think we all are, you know, weighing in on this with the best of intentions in the right spirit. That said, that is part of the name, and we're here to evaluate the names submitted, not submit our own names. And so I'm just trying to be procedural as well. And Mark, thank you for pointing out that I was not following procedure.
Who is, so is there anyone who would second that reconsideration motion for Cynthia?
I would second it, Sean.
Anyone object?
I object.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing here for a second. I've got to catch up with you. So we have a motion on the floor to reconsider the last motion that was made. So all in favor, I would like to see your hands, please, if I could ask for that. And then, okay, just for the reconsideration only, just that. Okay, and those who are opposed, please. So Ron, Amber, okay. So I'm sorry, Julian, we want to help you here too, and Mark is probably a better parliamentarian than I am, but I am familiar with the process. So that motion just passed with 2 people opposed. So the reconsideration has passed. So now I believe you are able to put a new motion on the floor at some point. Or you can just move into your discussion.
I believe there were three. Elena, were you a third? Yeah, Elena was a third.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you.
So just procedurally, if the motion for reconsideration passed, which it did, then the previous motion is now before us again for a vote, just as if the previous vote had never happened.
Yes.
So we have to vote a motion to add memorial to the name. And, you know, regardless of who we go with, it memorial at the end of our submission. And so someone have to second that, and we will have to vote on that. So all in favor?
I want to clarify the language, please. So we're just voting now to keep memorial as part of the name. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, same motion as before. It's just now we have another opportunity to vote or discuss.
So we'll need a mover and a seconder on that, yes?
Now the motion's before us again, just like it was just before the vote.
Okay, so the people remain the same. Okay,
So let's just vote on it. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Seven and 3.
okay,
So how
sorry,
did-
the Zoom screen is not conducive to seeing everybody really well. So again, I would like to see the people who are in favor, the lower count number. So Amber, Ron, and that's it. 2.
Eliana.
Oh, Eliana, thank you. Thank you, I've got it.
Thanks, guys. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just want to make sure that we're following, that we're honoring the assignment given to us.
Well, then I think at this time, Barb, when you get your notes together, we should pull that list back up and just go through the list and kind of discuss each one. I think we should revisit kind of what Sean was talking about why we're here in the first place, and then just have an open dialogue about these names and how you want to proceed with them. So Sean, can you kind of revisit what you said, just so it's fresh on everyone's mind when you talked about the whole renaming process as a whole?
Yeah, I just thought that, as we are here in service to the public, this idea didn't just come out of nowhere, right? It didn't come from district staff. It came from a member of our community who put forth an original proposal. And just for me personally, as a history teacher, going through this process and really reflecting on what it means to have a school in our district that is named after a person who owned over 100 people and was an unrepentant enslaver, right? Unlike George Washington, James Madison never freed the people that he enslaved. After he died, his wife, Dolly Madison, sold them off to pay off her debts, right? Sold them as property and made a profit. James Madison was the architect of the 3/5 Compromise, which is perhaps the biggest stain on our Constitution, right? Which had Black people in this country counted as less than human, right? As 3/5 of a person. So I think it's important that we just talk about that, or just like give space to recognize that. As I look through the proposals, as I look through the public comments, obviously there's a lot of different opinions and a lot of different perspectives. But I just personally want to say, for me, I think that the fact that we received proposals that attempted to make a mockery of this process are pretty good evidence that there are a lot of people out there who are coming to the defense of the name of James Madison for some pretty odious reasons, right? And so that really struck me when I first heard about the idea about renaming. I hadn't really thought that like people were going to get all excited about James Madison, given the full breadth of his history. So I think, you know, when folks suggest that James Madison's name doesn't have any sort of direct relationship with racism or white supremacy, I think that they're mistaken, actually. We can look to the fact that a significant number of people felt the need to make comments that I feel were offensive in their public comments. And the fact that people are making proposals like Pepe High School, which I just want to put it out. I don't think we should just set it aside and not talk about it. That is a white supremacist reference. And so I think it's really important that we ground ourselves in that. That's the community that we live in, where people are saying stuff like that, which is why it's really even more important that we're intentional, speaking for myself, in going forward with, you know, how we make a decision about the renaming, because I think it is really important. And our student, you know, speaking as a teacher, our students talk about those things and it impacts them. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Sean. We got Mark and then we got Ron.
So I was just curious to add a little context to what Sean was saying. I was curious to know how the building got named James Madison Memorial in the first place. And if everyone knows that history, I won't repeat it, but because I didn't know. So I did some digging this morning.
I don't know. Can you please share that?
Sure, yeah. So what I discovered is that it was actually highly controversial at the time. It was chosen by the school board amongst, and it's not clear how they did the nominations. I didn't get that information. But there was one nomination for James Madison. There were a number of nominations for President Kennedy, who had just been assassinated 3 years before. This vote was in 1966, and 1965. And the school board, on a 4-3 secret ballot, chose James Madison as the choice. And there was apparently a pretty significant community outcry after that. None of it, as far as I could tell, related to slavery, but a lot of it related to confusion about the name being the same as the city, and confusion with the other high school names. And there was so much effort on this, and Ruth Doyle was one of the strongest detractors of the name James Madison. She actually moved for reconsideration, interestingly enough, considering our discussion a few minutes ago, at the next school board meeting, and that was reconsideration was voted down on a 3-3 tie vote. And so that's kind of how we got to where it was. And I found a number of letters to the editor and other commentary in newspapers that there seemed to have been very little community support for that name. And yet the school board went forward on a very messy process, which eventually, 50 years later, led us here.
Thanks for that little bit of Madison history, Mark. That I definitely didn't know that, so that's good. And I appreciate that insight. Ron?
Thanks. I understand what Sean is trying to say, that, you know, the disappointment in the, you know, Pepe and the fake ones, but and it is a white supremacist used meme. For that reason, it should not be, this is just me, for that reason, it should not be discussed. There is no other side. They should not have a voice either. They're white supremacists. They're racists. They're making a mockery of this. They should be ignored. I'm sorry. There is no other side. We don't have to listen to them. That's the whole problem with this idea that there's two sides to stories. Either you believe in your fellow humans regardless of their color and all that, or you don't, and they shouldn't have a voice. That's all I want to say in this. I don't think that we should have, there's no reason to discuss Pepe the Frog and all of that. I think that's a waste of time. We're wasting everybody's time if we do that. We all know, Sean, and if people don't do it on your own time, but I can't sit here and be part of something where we're going to discuss them putting this out and all that. It gives credence to them. And I don't want to do that for those people, and I'll call them those people. Sorry.
And before I go to Sean, I just want to say I agree with Ron. I think that we all have time, precious time that we value, and I think for the sake of getting through things, and not giving people a voice or opportunity to make their mockery be met in the public, I agree 100% that we can kind of use our common sense to get through this name and kind of just skip over things that make a joke of this process. And so I'll go, with that being said, I'll go Cynthia, Lynn, and then Sean. So go ahead, Cynthia.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion, Julian, in light of what Ron said. He's not only a personal friend of mine, and I understand from where he's coming, but I also know that he is a representative of our Latino community. And so I would like to make a motion to immediately not at all consider the Pepe proposal.
Would anyone like to second that motion?
Yeah, I'll second it.
I second it. Yeah. So.
Please give me your name after you make a motion or something, so I'm sure who it is, because it sounds the same.
So
Cynthia come make that motion, and I believe Sean Matson is seconding that motion.
Thank you. Got it.
Are there any objections? No objections. Been unanimously decided that we remove Pepe, the consideration for Pepe High School from our proposals.
Thank you.
Lynn?
Hey, everybody. I like that Sean wanted to ground us in some of our reasoning. For me, before there was ever a proposal to rename the high school, in the privacy of my office, I've had more than 5 students comment on how they felt marginalized by the name of the high school based on the reasons that we've all discussed. And so for me, I wasn't surprised when there was a process that was coming about to rename the high school, and I was happy to be a part of it. And I'll just say that, you know, at this point, I'm further from ever than from being decided on a name. And I think that we have a lot of, you know, good discussion to come up with to do it honorably.
Agreed. I'm in the same boat. When I like it. We knew that this wasn't going to be an easy process, and we have a matter of different perspectives, different walks of life, experiences. So I think that's good, and I'm confident we'll get there. But I'm pretty far from a decision myself. So, Sean.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to say that I appreciated what Ron said, and we're actually in agreement. My point was not that we should discuss the merits of the proposal, but that we should point out that there were proposals that were clearly trolling and trying to make a mockery of the process. But beyond that, I don't feel the need to discuss. But I also appreciate the motion as well. Great idea.
Julian, I wanted to let you know that David has been able to join.
And in that same sentiment, I want to let you guys know that Ron did let me know that he had to log off. But we would like to right now take this time to welcome David. Sean, I don't know if you still have something to say. Your hand is up, or was that from the last? Okay, so we have Bayard Rustin. We have Bruce Diamond High School, Bruce Diamond Memorial High School at the top of the list. First off, do we want to just kind of talk when it comes to a person and we see that it's a person and it's a duplicate like Bruce Diamond High School and Bruce Diamond Memorial High School? Do you guys just want to go forward with it being Bruce Diamond Memorial High School, or do we have to discuss both names and in their entirety? I know that the memorial thing was kind of something we just voted on, but if it is in fact the person that we're discussing and there's a duplicate, for the sake of time, can we just go forward with the Memorial High School one, or do we just, what are thoughts on that? Mark?
sorry, I had my hand up previously. I don't have an answer to that question, so I'll defer.
Go ahead. What you had to say previously. Go ahead, and then we'll go to David.
Well, I was going to recommend a process here to try to get us to finalists. During our break, I tried to deduplicate the list and then also sort them by their average score. And I could share the results of that if that would be helpful. You know, I think would help us clarify, you know, what did well in the quantitative rankings and which ones didn't, and might help us decide how many and which names we want to get to as finalists. But that's just my suggestion on that.
Welcome, David. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I recommend that we take each at their own merit and discuss the possibility of just the Bruce Diamond or the Bruce Diamond Memorial, just because there were duplicates of both, but Bruce Diamond without the memorial made it to the highest. Oh wait, are these rankings not in order? Nope, I see that there.
That's correct. They're not.
Okay, then
That's right.
But that point is still taken. That point is still taken. They have multiple submissions and they have pretty solid scores, so we can do it at their own merit. Mark, Barb, in reference to what Mark said, how do you feel about him sharing the quick list he made during recess, or is that something he has to email you and you share?
Sure can share.
Mark, do you want to email that to Barb and then she'll share it with the group?
Or he can do it.
Or you can do it.
Are you comfortable, Mark?
Yeah, I'm just not quite adept enough to try to share and reach for my mute button at the same time.
You can do it, Mark.
We'll see. Okay, here we go. So someone earlier, I think it might have been Cynthia, suggested taking just the top score of each unique name and then eliminating all the duplicates. So I did that, and then I just put them in order by their average score, and this is what I came up with.
Go ahead, David.
So this is very helpful, and kind of just revising what I said previously, I think because the Bruce Diamond Memorial High School is, ranked the highest, and then Bruce Diamond without the memorial is kind of down there. Just for time's sake, I would suggest just taking the Bruce Diamond Memorial High School as the recommendation.
My question is, of this list, do we just go down and discuss each one of them, or do we just, obviously I think we should, but or do we kind of just, I don't think we're gonna get through this, and I honestly right now I don't think we'll get through this today, but I think we should go ahead and start talking about the names. Sean?
I think way early in the meeting, someone had suggested choosing to eliminate under a certain threshold, which is something that would create a little bit of efficiency for us, and is something that I'm open to personally. I don't know if it's 3 or if it's something else, but that could be a way forward, especially considering all those under 1. I think we definitely are probably all in agreement for sure on.
Cynthia?
I just feel like I'm going to be the motion maker. I am making a motion to eliminate any name that was proposed below the 3 ranking. So anything below 3, I would propose we eliminate straight away, and focus on where it seems we all sort of ranked things a little bit more significant and higher.
I would
I would
second the
that.
motion.
Well, yep.
And that was Eliana's idea, by the way, not mine. So I'm bringing forth her idea via a motion. Go JMM, soon to be senior. Woo!
And
Seconder, please.
Amber Jansen seconded the motion.
Thank you.
Are there any objections? Under unanimous vote, the motion granted.
Okay.
And so now this is our list. We have okay, good, that's clear. Oops, down Memorial, Darlene Hancock.
Okay, Mark, I'm gonna ask you to share this document with me when you get a chance now, because I want to have that as part of the record, okay? Thank you.
Amber?
I'll send it to you right now.
This might be the teacher in me, but now that we have a list that's down to 16, I would love to get this list and go through this list again with the rubric and be able to compare this list of names comparatively on the rubric, especially given in consideration of what Mark was saying earlier about now that we don't have duplicates, we can really value the name nominated rather than the quality of the submission, because I think for most of us that was built into our ranking. And so with these rankings where they are, we can eliminate the quality of the submission at this point, and instead, and I don't know whether we want to use the same rubric or if there's a different layer of things that we would like to consider for these names, but I would like some time to come back with these names now that we've narrowed it down to a more manageable list.
Sean and then Frank.
I'm not quite sure how re-ranking will, if you're using the rubric, right, and you're using the same rubric, then your score should be the same next time. Because we weren't really comparing them against each other. We didn't rank them, actually. We just scored them. And that was something that had confused me initially, is that I looked at rank and I thought, oh, I'm going to rank 78 proposals, right? But in fact, we haven't ranked any of them. We're just simply filling out the rubric, which I felt was very rudimentary. Almost all of the proposals that I reviewed, I ranked a 3 or a 4. Because it was like, yes, it meets the qualifications. So that's sort of how I approached the ranking. And there are still a few duplicates here on the list, right? There's Madison Memorial, Madison Memorial. So there's even some that I think that we could probably strike from the list and have and that's sort of why earlier I suggested that we sort of set the memorial piece aside for now and sort of like, unless you're actually going for like the high school name to be Memorial, right? But like we can decide later if it's Electa Quinney High School or Electa Quinney Memorial High School. I don't think we have to review those two things separately, if that makes sense, right? Because if we decide to name it after a person, it's not because the word memorial is in the name, it's because we decided to name it after Ruth Bader Ginsburg or whomever. So I just think that that's a way that we can make it a little bit more efficient. And I think that once we do that, we're down to a pretty manageable list that I think that we can probably move forward on talking about. But that's sort of what I'm thinking.
Frank?
Yeah, I would agree with Sean. I think just to pare it down, Memorial, I think someone brought up that Memorial High School is a memorial to what, so maybe I don't know, how would people feel about just removing Memorial High School, or at least, or leave it on there and consider it, but memorial to what, I guess I would remove those two.
Cynthia?
I appreciate what you just said, Frank, but I 100% disagree with you. And here's why. I went to Memorial and I was thinking about this. I've given this a lot of thought, as I know we all have. I don't want any child attending that school, past or present or future, to feel marginalized. I understand Memorial by definition is the memorial to someone. However, I do not believe that that is how the name is embraced or utilized by the student body or people who call it that. And I was thinking about I know this is going to sound corny, but the fight song, which does not include James Madison in it at all. And having attended Memorial High School, which is what everyone called it and still calls it, they don't call it James Madison Memorial High School. The fight song is March Onward, March On, We Are Memorial. And so I think to remove that would actually be removing a legitimate submission. That's just me.
Sean and Frank, are your hands still up from the previous, or is it a new?
Yeah, I think that I have a compromise. I think looking at proposal number 59, number 77, that's Madison Memorial High School. I think we should carry that forward, but then we should, and I would move that we eliminate 59 Memorial High School, and we eliminate 62 Madison Memorial, and we eliminate 39 Memorial High School from the list. And then that can rise as one of our finalists and we can have a discussion about that, but we don't necessarily need to have the duplicates.
Yeah, 39 actually shouldn't be on there at all. That's my mistake in my deduplicating. That one actually is a duplicate, an exact duplicate.
Lynn?
So then my motion would be,
I'm sorry.
So my motion would be to remove proposal number 59 from the list and to remove proposal number 62 from the list while retaining proposal number 77.
Does anyone second this motion?
I second that motion.
I'm sorry, who was that?
David Aguayo.
David, thank you.
Are there any objections?
Yeah, I have one. It's why my hand is raised. If you read those proposals, they explain, for example, from Ms. Cullen, why she kept just Memorial. It actually is one of the more thoughtful proposals that was written to this group. And it was one of the ones I thought was among the most meaningful that I read. So to strike that simply because it seems to be redundant does a disservice to the proposal that was put forward.
I agree with that.
Mark, can you stop sharing? We're going to take it to vote.
Yeah, I wanted to weigh in on that, but I can't raise my hand and share at the same time. But I want to support what Cynthia said a moment ago, that Memorial or Madison Memorial and James Madison Memorial are all different for the very reason that she described, and Amber emphasized that. So I would be a no on this motion.
So all in favor of removing?
I think Len should have the floor. His hand has been up for quite a while.
Well, my original hand was up just to say that Amber, I know the ranking was something that would be valuable to sit with them, but at this point, I could really use all your minds in on some of these names to hear what your thoughts are on them. But in terms of right on this particular point we're on, I would say that I would not like to strike any unique names to themselves that are on the list. So I would vote to not carry the motion as well.
To all opposed to this motion, can you please raise your hand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you have can you see the people, Barb?
I'm sorry, give me a few more seconds on that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So
Did you catch that?
it's decided to reject that motion to remove those proposals. With that being said, let's kind of look at the list and talk through some of the names as Lynn has brought to the attention of the committee. Mark, if you could reshare your screen. So let's start with Bruce Diamond Memorial High School is at the top of our list. It had the highest average rank. And we can just kind of speak about the person and why you guys ranked what you ranked, if you guys care to share with the group. And just your thoughts about this proposal and this submission.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Cynthia. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Sorry. So I didn't rank based on how I felt about a name or a person. I ranked based on the criteria which were set forth, which we were supposed to follow. And did they answer all the questions relevant to whether this was a person or a place? And so I want to admonish us as a group of very clearly passionate and caring community members to please make sure that we keep our conversation framed around the actual submissions and not our feelings on the names. Because I love a lot of these names personally, but I need to follow criteria set forth by the board and the school district to help my friends and colleagues on this committee and friends to be made yet, if I haven't met you, come to, a thoughtful recommendation based on the criteria and the proposals presented to us. So I would ask if we could take a look at the highest ranked Bruce Diamond Memorial High School proposal and talk through the criteria.
I think that's a good idea. I think if we kind of toggle between screen sharing between Mark and Barbara, and we pull up that actual Excel sheet of proposal 57 and go through that, I think that'll be helpful. And while Barb is preparing that, Eliana, your hand was raised.
Oh, I just had a comment about kind of how I felt about what I did on the rubric and some other things, but we can go over the proposal first and then discuss that later.
David?
Kind of the same about Cynthia and Eliana is the initial rankings were based off of just the criteria given. But given that and moving forward, something that has been a flag for me is we're renaming this high school because of a person's name in their history. I kind of wanted to avoid that moving forward. If we are able to, in renaming this high school for another person, just, what if something comes on along the line or, down in the future that this person did something, then we find ourselves in this same position. So that's just a flag that I wanted to put out there is, we are renaming this high school after a person. Do we want to rename them after another person? But having said that, my rankings and my that I submitted were based off just strictly criteria, high level overview, didn't give any personal sentiment into any of these. It was just, did they follow that criteria? Did they answer the questions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. Now we should talk about why we ranked them the way we did and kind of have more discussion about that.
And I think that's a great point. I know we have to have some sort of system to kind of get to the finish line, but I do want to be conscious of kind of talking about the merit of each person, right? Because if we don't, it'll be too analytical. And what I mean by that is if we're only taking the criteria and someone does it very thoroughly, they're gonna rank higher, especially if they have more submissions. And so while that is good to have and kind of consolidate our list, I do think that it's important to kind of start focusing in on the actual merit, the accomplishments, and what it'll mean to the community as a whole. Because I feel like we're getting towards, and it's good to have to kind of get to where we need to be. I feel like it's starting to be too analytical, and we're analyzing these based on numbers too much versus the actual merit. You know, now that we're consolidating, let's start talking about the merit. Let's start talking about this person, their accomplishments through the proposals like Cynthia suggested, and reading through them, and then kind of talking about those as we can get closer to actually submitting names. Because if we do it this way, we won't have any kind of humanistic input on it. It'll just be all numbers. And then that'll be, I think we'd be doing a disservice to the community if we go that route. So just something to kind of put out there. Amber?
Yeah, I guess with that in mind, and I totally agree with David, your thoughts, and Julian. I'm wondering if this late in the meeting, I mean, we're 2 hours in already, if we can do justice to these names in the robustness of our conversation, or if it would make more sense for that to be our first order of business in a next meeting where we could really spend a couple hours discussing these names in a more intentional way. So that's just a question I have for the group.
Honestly, I think that we should take this list and kind of spend some time reevaluating the proposals, kind of looking through, you know, each individual, the merit, and kind of revisit it. I know it's like Amber says, it's been two hours. I think we should spend some time with these and kind of do them each justice. Eliana?
Yeah, so kind of building off of that, I think that what might be a better use of our time right now at the kind of end of this meeting is if we can kind of come up with a format for how we want to evaluate these names at the next meeting. So as opposed to beginning the discussion, if we decide like, yes, we're going to read the highest ranked proposal and then discuss starting from the highest ranked name to the lowest at our next meeting, so that then next time we can just kind of streamline the process and get right into the discussing and not have to kind of burn ourselves out trying to work that out then.
Julian, I just want to point out that we still have the research available too, as a reference. So that's always there too for everyone.
I kind of like the direction that Eliana proposed. I think with the research, more time, and the proper due diligence, I think that, you know, we've set ourselves up with this very productive meeting to have an even more productive meeting at our next gathering, where we can kind of get even further along the line. I think that, you know, we don't want to burn ourselves out doing too much in one meeting. We knew from the jump that this would be a process, and we have the time that we need to make sure that we do our duties and fulfill our obligations to our community. So I just think that, you know, if anyone is opposed, if you guys want to continue, I mean, you should speak now, but other than that, we should start. If no one's opposed, we're going to start kind of wrapping this thing up, talking about, you know, and moving towards adjournment. And I think that the process that Eliana kind of described is pretty good to go. So we'll go Cynthia, she had hers up, then we'll go Lynn, and we'll go Sean. Cynthia?
I'm sorry, you guys. I feel like I'm like the squeaky wheel. I am going to make another motion. And I would like to make a motion that we come up with a methodical process to move through this and vote on it, present it and vote on it at the top of the next meeting, so that we're all in agreement on how we can all kind of frame, we can frame the conversation around with some guidelines. I would be happy to put something to paper to discuss. I think honestly, it really comes down to looking at rankings first and then talking about the people as people, to David's point and Eliana's point and your point, Julian. I think if we could take a first pass simply with utilizing rankings and agree on maybe reducing the list to a certain threshold and then having the broader conversation, I think that might move us along. That would be my suggestion. And I guess I'm making a motion to put a process to paper that we would all vote on at the top of the meeting for some guardrails. I'd be happy to take that on. I'd also be happy to not take that on, whatever is wanted or needed.
Does anyone second that motion?
I'll second that motion, and I'd like to discuss it for a moment if I could, which is that I think it could be possible that other committee members, including perhaps myself, I'm not sure yet, might want to also put forward a rubric for ranking for next meeting. And we
Okay.
could discuss perhaps several different proposals of how to move forward.
Is anyone do an objection to this motion? Motion granted. What I'll do is I'll put an email.
Wait. If you call for an objection, that's someone objecting to a motion. It's not voting again. Like, you have to have a vote. I'm not gonna vote for it.
Oh,
So
I didn't.
I would object, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if your hand was up or not. So so now we have to vote. All in favor of this motion, raise your hand.
Would you please,
Clarify?
clarify or repeat the motion, please?
Sure. And I actually, Mark, if you want to work on this together, we could probably hammer out something pretty quickly to present to the group and see if people are comfortable with it as guidelines. If you want to work on it together, or if you want to take it, it doesn't matter to me. The motion is to bring forth a process at the top of the next meeting, providing guidelines for us for a first pass to consider, just simply rankings, reduce the list, and then have the broader, deeper conversations about the people or places associated with the remaining proposals, that we determine some threshold in that first pass.
With that being repeated, we'll take it to vote. All in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. Motion granted.
I'm sorry, can you show who's opposed?
All opposed. Sean Madsen was opposed.
Thank you.
Len, you had your hand up, and then Sean.
Yeah, I was just hoping in terms of materials, if we could have the proposals that are highlighted in Mark's document to review without the rest of them in a new document. It would make it really easy to dig into those as well as the research.
Absolutely.
We can definitely do that for you. Sean?
Well, I was hoping to speak before we voted, but the reason why I voted against the proposal was because I think I would rather get to a discussion of what we have right now rather than opening our next meeting with a debate about which like guidelines or whatever that we're going to use. And so I just see that as further lengthening the process, and I'm ready to have a discussion about the individual members. So that's why I voted the way that I did.
Sean, to satisfy that, hey, Mark, do you want to just work on this together and bring forth something and then just have the committee vote yay or nay on that being our guidelines?
I'm fine with that. I'd also be fine doing that.
Unilaterally?
That vote is not the first thing on the agenda. So, Sean wanted to talk about each one of the names, and we could do that before we even talk about what kind of methodology we're going to use to sort them.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion either way, honestly. All right.
David?
So Mark, you and I can work together on at least just guidelines, and then I guess Julian and Barb can determine the agenda of the meeting, I would assume.
David, I think that's, I agree.
Okay.
Could the guidelines not be then just a criteria that has already been set forth, and we have the discussion on those criteria? We ranked them because yes, they answered it, and yes, no other thought was given. So now is this person an actual local figure? Is this name an actual location of importance? So, those guidelines are already set. Why not just have the discussion around those and then move forward on that list based on what has been written on the proposal, and then taking into consideration our own personal thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think we're talking about, and David, you're right. I don't think Mark and I are talking about adding additional guidelines for consideration. I think we're talking about creating a process for moving through that list. Like at a first pass, will we only consider rankings to reduce the list more and then open up the discussion? Or are we going to talk about, just kind of some rules of engagement, if you will?
And maybe
Maybe up to
I don't know if this will help. I think that maybe if you guys, kind of like how we did with the rubrics, if you guys were to come up with that that methodology and email it to Barbara, and we get it out to the group so they can see it beforehand and kind of have time with it. So then when it comes to the actual agenda and going through things, it's not like we're all seeing it for the first time. We're all discussing it for the first time. We already kind of have our points. And as we go through the agenda and we get there, it's smooth and efficient.
Yeah. With that in mind, is there anything, Julian, is it okay if we just ask everyone on the committee, does everyone feel they've weighed in on what they feel is most important to discuss, just so that Mark and I make sure that that's considered with the rules of engagement we would suggest? I just want to make sure everyone feels heard.
Yeah, the one thing I would just ask for, and I know this is the heart of this committee, it's why people are on this, but as a teacher in the school, really just we think about how that person would present to both our students and to the outside community from an equity standpoint, and from an elevation standpoint, right? What are we choosing to elevate? What message are we sending? So I trust you and Mark with the phrasing of that, but that would be the one thing I would like for us to make sure we include in that.
Yeah, that's fair. Person or place, right? Yep. Okay.
Mark?
I was just going to add that, whatever Cynthia and I come up with, it'll be obviously up to the committee whether to accept that as is, amend it, throw it out the window. So,
Yep.
we don't get to set those rules.
Mm-mm.
So I think in terms of next steps, we kind of have a path that we're going to go down. Mark and Cynthia are going to collaborate on kind of how we vet this next list. And I'll make sure you guys have that at ample time before we actually reconvene. And speaking of reconvening, I want to kind of open up the floor to when people would like that to be. Do we keep the month a month? Do you guys think that we need to? I don't think we need as much time because the list isn't as long. So I'm open to meeting sooner. But like I said, I want to kind of open that up for dialogue and people speak on availability. So go ahead. With that being said, any suggestions?
2 weeks.
That would be September 1st at 5 p.m. Does that work for everyone?
I would perhaps prefer not to meet like before the first day of school. Maybe if we could push it back even like a week, that would be great.
September 8th.
If we want to keep it on a Wednesday, I'm assuming we want to stay on Wednesday.
Yeah, I kind of like the Wednesdays. Is September 8th okay with everyone?
Sorry, that's Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, I was trying to see if Rosh Hashanah goes into Wednesday. I know it's on Tuesday.
No, it's on Tuesday. Eliana would know.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jewish. I obviously don't speak for everyone on the committee, but the first night of Rosh Hashanah is the 6th to the 7th. And then the 8th is kind of the second celebratory day for those who are more religious. Personally, I'm fine with the 8th. I don't celebrate it all on the 8th, but obviously if anyone else on the committee has any other comments or anything. Also, the holiday does end at sundown. So those who would be watching on YouTube, if they are observant, they would be able to tune in when the sun comes down. But it is kind of a holiday that's celebrated by the more conservative and more religious members of the community at that point on the 8th.
Could I suggest next week, August 25th?
August 25th.
I think that's too soon for Cynthia and I to do this work we've talked about.
Okay.
and for other people then to have time to review that.
Yeah, to digest it.
So let's,
So, go ahead.
so I think we should stick with the 8th. I think that if that works for everyone, I think we should kind of use that as a target date so we're not feeling rushed. People can do what they have to do and tend to their normal lives and prepare for what they have going on personally. And that'll give us time to kind of discuss next steps too, Barb. So if that's okay with everyone, can you guys give me a thumbs up on your screen?
Barb, is there any sort of district policy on holding a meeting like this
Yes, well, in fact, there
on
is.
a holiday?
Yes.
Because it's not a problem for us, but would it be an issue?
There
Yeah.
are certain high holy days that we do recognize, and we do not do board meetings on Rosh Hashanah, period.
Okay.
We don't. We do have Yom Kippur the following week on Wednesday. However, Tuesday the 14th is open and free and clear.
Or Thursday the 9th?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Let's do Thursday the 9th then maybe.
Let's do, I'm with Thursday the 9th. Thumbs up, everyone.
That's fine. I will not be able to attend. I have a commitment that evening, but I can send in my information.
I apologize too. We have a senior parent night at Memorial, actually.
Well, we would like everyone to be a part, so we can figure out a date where everyone's here. That following Tuesday, the 14th. Are there any,
Yeah, that's when sophomore parent night. I apologize.
or then this is like we're back on September the 15th, that following week, that following Wednesday. Is that
That's
okay with
Yom
that?
Kippur. That's Yom Kippur. Okay, so we can't do Mondays because we have board meetings on Mondays and they're both occupied on 13th and the 20th. Are you talking about now maybe moving to the 21st? Or the 22nd or the 23rd of September?
That seems pretty far away. Let me ask you something. I know this.
30th.
I'm
I
sorry?
will not be able to attend on the 30th. I have a commitment.
Okay, 31st?
Our Friday, it would be October 1st.
I'm sorry, I was talking about August 30th. That's the same week as the 1st.
August 30th. We can't do them on Mondays.
Right. Tuesday, the 31st is, I'm sorry,
you're
it's
saying, Lynn?
really imperative that we get you all there. So that's why this is gonna be kind of painful. I'm sorry to do this at a public meeting, but really should try to find a date when we can have all of you there.
August 31st?
Sean asked that we not meet before school started.
I asked that we don't meet the day before school
Oh,
starts.
I see. Sorry.
Is 31st okay?
Does that work for you, Sean? Okay, cool.
August 31st at 5 PM. Yes?
What
Wait.
day is that? I'm sorry.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, August 31st.
That's correct. It's a Tuesday. Okay? Bingo.
I would really just like to thank all of our teachers and support staff and administrators who are on this committee for everything that you have endured the past year and a half. And as those challenges continue heading into this new year, thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your participation.
Dr. Pryor, did you want to say something?
Yeah, yes, I would also like to say this as well. You know, I was just overjoyed sitting here, listening into this conversation, really was itching to get into the conversation. And I know I do not have a voice here in this, but I want to commend you all for holding each other accountable, really leaning in and pressing in to make sure that this is a process that we can all be proud of. And I just commend you. The questions that was raised, the pushbacks, you know, it was so appropriate. And, you know, I've never been more encouraged that this team is going to walk away with a name that has been vetted properly and that we will all be proud of at the end. And so I just want to thank each and every one of you because, you know, no one on this platform is getting paid for this. Julian, I thank you for just, you know, just taking the lead on this. And I know there's 1,000 things that you could be doing now, just like the rest of you on here, those of you with families and students and teachers getting ready. And this work that you're doing is so valuable. And I want to thank you for taking it with the depth of seriousness that I have witnessed, here tonight and in the last meeting. And so I just want to say on behalf of MMSD, thank you for the contributions that you're making. It will be invaluable, and it will be remembered for decades and decades to come. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Pryor. With that being said, I just want to ask one more time, is there anything that we missed? Anyone want any last remarks from anyone? Now is the time. There isn't any closing remarks or any additional thoughts. I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at this time, 7:16 p.m. Wednesday, August 18th, 2021.
Second.
That is seconded with no objections.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Meeting adjourned. You guys have a great evening. See you guys on the 31st.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.